dive right into what is an incredibly fast-moving geopolitical crisis. We are looking at a situation on a total razor's edge, folks, with an ultimatum from the United States to Iran that could have absolutely massive global consequences.
And this is what kicked everything into high gear. This is the raw, unfiltered ultimatum from the President of the United States, posted for the whole world to see. He's not just making a vague threat. He's saying Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, a very specific, very public warning that has set the stage for a dramatic, and I mean dramatic, escalation.
So, Power Plant Day. What on earth does that even mean? Well, to get a handle on that, we actually have to rewind just a few hours before this threat was even issued, because a really high-stakes military drama was already playing out deep inside Iran. When you boil it all down, the demand is pretty straightforward. Iran has to end its blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. And this demand, well, it's the flashpoint of a crisis that's been building for over a month now, pushing the global economy right to the brink. The immediate trigger for the president's public threat, the thing that pushed it over the edge, was an incredibly high-stakes military operation, a search and rescue mission that took place deep inside Iranian territory just this past weekend. So here's what happened. On Friday, a U.S. F-15E fighter jet with a two-person crew was shot down over Iran. That immediately kicks off what's called a SAR mission, which is military speak for an incredibly dangerous operation to go in and get your people back from behind enemy lines. Now check out this timeline, because it's just breathtakingly fast. On Friday, the jet goes down, they get the pilot out pretty quick, which is amazing. But the search for the second crew member, a highly respected colonel, went on for another 48 hours. It all culminated in a successful rescue that the White House celebrated with that triumphant, all-caps announcement, "We got him." And this is where things get really interesting, because we're seeing an information war play out in real time. The US is framing this as a flawless, heroic, historic success. But Iran? They're telling a completely different story. They claim the mission was a failure, that they shot down multiple US aircraft, and even released images they say show the wreckage. It is a classic case of two competing narratives in the fog of war. So that rescue mission was definitely the spark that lit the fuse. But the real powder keg here, the reason we're even talking about this, is Iran's decision to close one of the most important waterways in the entire world, the Hormuz Strait. Why is this one little strait so important? Well, it all comes down to this number right here, 20%. A full fifth of the world's daily oil supply, plus massive amounts of natural gas, has to squeeze through this tiny waterway. So yeah, when Iran decides to turn off the tap, the entire world feels it, instantly. And this wasn't like flipping a switch. It was this slow, calculated squeeze. First they started with radio warnings. Hey, don't come through here. Then they escalated to actually attacking commercial ships. As you can imagine, that sent insurance costs through the roof, so shipping companies just stopped coming. And finally, Iran just made it official, formalizing the blockade against the US and its allies. And let's be clear, this isn't just about economics or oil prices. These attacks have a very real, very tragic human cost. We're talking about civilian sailors on ships like the oil tanker Skylight and the tugboat Musafa II who have been killed. These are ordinary people just trying to do their jobs, caught right in the middle of all of this. Now, this hasn't been a one-way street. The conflict is spilling out beyond just the strait. Iran has started hitting back, targeting the infrastructure of American allies all across the Persian Gulf. Iran's strategy here seems pretty clear. If you host US forces, your critical infrastructure is now a target. And we've seen them follow through on that. They've hit power and water plants in Kuwait, a huge petrochemical facility in the UAE, and oil storage tanks in Bahrain. This is, without a doubt, a regional escalation. With all of this going on, the entire international community is basically holding its breath. But getting everyone to agree on what to do about it, well, that's proving to be nearly impossible. And this right here shows you the diplomatic jam we're in. On one side, you have this coalition of over 20 nations all saying, we need to take action and reopen the strait. But on the other side, you've got Russia and China. And because they have veto power at the UN Security Council, they can block any official action. Their big fear is that giving the green light to military force could spin this whole thing into a much, much bigger war. Meanwhile, Iran is fighting back on the diplomatic front, and they're using some really powerful language. They're telling the UN that President Trump's threat isn't just tough talk. They're calling it a public threat to commit war crimes by targeting civilian infrastructure. Which brings us right back to where we started. the countdown. As if the first threat wasn't enough, the president then posted this. Just a time and a date. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. He's literally put a deadline on it, a public countdown clock that the entire planet is now watching. So here we are, just hours away from that deadline. We know there are reports of frantic, back-channel talks happening, trying to find an off-ramp. But the big question remains, is diplomacy going to pull us back from the brink, or are we about to watch this crisis explode into a dangerous and potentially devastating new phase? I guess we're all about to find out very, very soon.